Hello, everyone, and welcome to Freeplay's 2021 closing keynote. My name is Chad Toprak, and I'm the Artistic Director of Freeplay. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that Freeplay hosts and broadcasts from the stolen lands of the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, where stories have been shared and games have been played since time immemorial. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and to anyone watching who has a connection to the world's oldest living culture. Sovereignty was never ceded, and the violence of the colonial project is still ongoing. So welcome to Freeplay 2021's closing keynote. Joining us for the closing is Zedeck Siew. Zedeck is a writer, translator, and designer based in Port Dickson. His prose fiction and RPG work has been published in Malaysia, the UK, and the USA. With visual artist Sharon Chin, he wrote the illustrated bestiary, herbiary, creatures of near kingdoms, which I have right here. With artist designer Mun Kao, he co-designed political party simulator card game POLITIKO, this one, and co-creates the RPG zine series 1,000 Islands, which are these ones. He thinks a lot about language, belonging, and ghosts. It's a great pleasure to have Zedeck on board. Please make him feel welcome, and I'll pass it on to him.
Hi, everybody. I guess I'll start. The whole of last week, I've been thinking about what to say to you, dear friends. But I've been distracted. You cannot hear it because noise cancellation technology removes it. But where I am now, there is a whine in the air, in my head, like the sound an airplane makes, idling on the tarmac with its turbines spinning, keening. It never ends. I live in a small town called Port Dickson. It is a petrogas town. There are 200 meters between my front porch and the Shell refining company. The Shell refining company produces up to 120,000 barrels a day. At night, its double gas flare lights up my bedroom with a never-ending sunset. Night or day, those flares do not stop burning. Night or day, the plant's loud turbine whine does not end. I figured since we were live, let's do some dice rolling. Roll a six-sided die. 1, you grind your teeth in your sleep. Your jaw hurts the next morning. 2, you play Doom. You hear the whine even under all that glitch synth metal. 3, you lie awake. You watch the gas flare dance shadows on the wall. 4, you type out a 23-tweet thread about colonialism in games. 5, you actually ring the refinery and they tell you they're compliant with regulations. 6, you jump out of bed to check on your stove because the air smells sharp with gas. It never ends. So the refinery and its flare has snuck into my work a few times now. Here is a line of cut illustration that with the visual artist Sharon Chin made for the fuel buffalo, one of the animals in Creatures of Near Kingdoms, a bestiary / herbiary of imaginary living things that Sharon and I made together in 2018. Sharon and I live together, and she has been bothered by the whine more so and for longer than I have. Here is a lighthouse from Spy in the House of Eth, an RPG adventure I wrote in 2020 for the dark fantasy tabletop RPG best left buried. Spy in the House of Eth is a hex crawl set in a region called the Ethland, named after the conquistador who annexed it. His descendants have turned the place into a vast agro-industrial monoculture. Plantations, warehouses, processing plants. That is what Malaysia looks like. A petroleum gas flare lighting up rolling hills of agro-industrial monoculture. It began in the colonial era with the empire's need for rubber. Then, in 1917, British planters introduced oil palm, which is what you see here. The clearing of the forest hasn't stopped since. It never ends. Roll a four-sided die. Number 1, think of a man who stole your slippers for his museum. Number 2, think of a man who forced you into an internment camp. Number 3, think of a man who put his name to your founding myth. Number 4, think of a man who believed you and yours lived in trees. My hometown was once called Tanjung Arang. Then a man called John Zedeck Dickson arrived. He was never important enough to learn about in school, so the only details I know of his life are what Google tells me. Google tells me he was president of the Straits branch of the Royal Asiatic Society for several years. They renamed my hometown in his honor. This is why I live in a place called Port Dickson. Empire has since left, but we inherited its names, its imagination. The term and idea of Southeast Asia was first popularized in World War II. The field of Southeast Asian studies was founded in Western academia, funded by Cold War-era American foreign policy. They needed to understand their periphery, the place where they fought their proxy wars. So peripheral we continue to be, and peripheral was the way we came to conceive ourselves, an adjunct branch of the Royal Asiatic Society. There is a village in my home state called Kampong LBJ. It was renamed after Lyndon B. Johnson was brought here during a state visit. What drives brown people to rename themselves in honor of Westerners? Colonies leapt off the maps and into our heads. Roll a six-sided die. Number 1, you need to study hard so that you can get the scholarship to study in Australia. Number 2, you are told that it's an economic necessity to break into the UK-US market. Number 3, you have called the Pontianak a Malay version of the vampire in online forums. Number 4, you grew up proud that your family owned a set of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Number 5, you know more about the politics of Baltimore than that of your own hometown. Number 6, you are told by your editors that your new book might need a Manglish glossary. For the first 20-odd years of my life, I was an airplane idling on the tarmac, turbine spinning, head full of exports destined for the metropole, somewhere I could truly matter, somewhere with access to COVID-19 vaccines, say. It just never ends. We have tried to make ourselves matter over the years. Malaysia during the Mahathir era, which we arguably have never left, was infamous for building biggest, longest, tallest monuments, the Twin Towers, Putrajaya, petroleum wealth spent in phallic enormity, as if that would shift compasses our way. Our ethno-nationalists love talking about the Sultanate of Malacca as the model Malay Muslim kingdom, an empire, in truth, with dominion over large portions of the Nusantara, comparable in might and stature to other empires, the Mauryan Empire, Mongol China, Macedonia. With our history so interrupted, we have no trails to trace, except those that our old masters left. And we measure ourselves now by how much we fill their shoes and outrun their steps. Roll a four-sided die. Number one, you buy all extraction rights in other third world countries. Number two, you arrest refugees and you send them home to their oppressors. Number three, you put an international airport on Orang Asli burial land. Number four, you adulate your coup government in three-story murals. Whenever I make or write or design, half my mind is occupied by these whinings. Roll a six-sided die. Number one, you worry that your manuscript needs a glossary of common local terms, not your editor, you. You write the glossary, you delete it, then you rewrite it. Number two, you calculate how much you will need to describe the durian. Do you have to say that it is spiky? Do you have to say, like the way YouTubers describe it, that it smells like garlic? Number three, you get a message from a fan saying, I love your adventure, but I am too afraid to run it for my home group. I know nothing about Southeast Asia. What if I get stuff wrong? Number four, you suspect your peers and colleagues see you as a competitor because there is only one seat for your identity at the representational table. You hate yourself for even thinking this. Number five, you type up a 23 tweet thread explaining why a Disney animated movie will never be the triumph of Southeast Asian representation. Number six, you lie awake, going over everything you said on the forum, fearful that you spoke out of turn or mischaracterized an aspect of society or your context. Actually put the dice down, don't roll. All these results apply all at once, all the time. E goes the sound of the wine. It never ends, it never ends, it never ends. The awareness of being seen as representative. Even right now at this moment, talking to you, dear friends, I feel it coming up behind me. The need to hold the torch for my context, the duty to speak on behalf of, to do justice to shine a light on ambassadorial bullshit. The idea that my value is in being representative, that I am incentivized to be representative. Not something that was asked of me ever, not something that I wished for, yet always there, a psychic burden put there by power relations, by material realities, history, politics, geography. The same reasons why I live 200 meters from a petroleum refinery. The Western gaze, a background wind in the mind, a mental death I need to get over every single time I sit down before I can even start to make anything living. Let's talk about games finally. The long-term game project that I'm working on is a series of zines collectively called A Thousand Islands. A Thousand Islands began in 2017 as a research project by visual artist Mun Kao. He wanted to look closer at pre-colonial material culture. It frustrated him that our imagination of the past had been abridged into a single figure, the archetypal Malay warrior. Roll a four-sided die. Number one, you wear trousers and a tanjak as tall as your own face. Number two, you are brandishing your keris with its 13 waves. Number three, you are bowing before your king saying, Ampun Tuanku. Number four, you are ready to fight off the invaders, to die for your God and your soil. Don't worry, by the way, that random table is a lie. It is only ever Tanjak and Keris and Islamic feudalism, an ethno-nationalist monoculture. Considering how rich this region was with dyes and patterns, with peoples and genders, with myths and magics, how did we become so impoverished? These last 4 years, Mun Kao and I have made zines inspired by crocodile folktales from the Lingay River, cat manuals from Thailand, batik pacifism, haunted bungalows in the Cameron Highlands, pre-colonial Chinese settlements in Borneo, Kelantanese monsoon festivals, tamu bazaars, weaving practices in East Lombok. Each booklet describes a setting, an archipelago, a people, a community, each the center of its own mandala. Here is a creation story from 100 Red Scales, our latest zine. In the time before time, Pa the man god swam the breadth of the sea so he could be wed to the goddess 100 Red Scale. 100 Red Scale's gift was beauty. She had a jeweled hide, gleaming in every shade of ruby. 100 Red Scale's genius was love. She learned passion from her mother the earth and practiced her lissom arts with orchid and otter, tiger and tern, heaving river and hard mountain. Lover to all, she was loved by all. This made her husband unhappy. Pa the man god felt jealousy. Swimming in the sea on their return journey, she coupled with the fishes they met, and these fishes raised hymns to 100 Red Scale. Pa the man god's jealousy was this, hearing praise for her but none for him. Her husband became enraged. He murdered her, cut off her head and hands and tail, broke her teeth, drank her blood. After which Pa the man god departed, leaving her pieces there, counting on the sea to swallow his sin. But the waves fell in love with 100 Red Scale, even as they ate her. They could not forget. Where they broke, they whispered songs of her love. And in such places, mangroves grew, trees whose bark still weep the color of the goddess, 100 Red Scale's beauty. These are in RPG setting gazetteers in the conventional sense. There are no key streets, no border maps. How are the islands arranged? You grab your stack of zines and drop them on the floor. It's a zine drop table, a random map. All founding myths are true. There is no center to 1,000 islands. Or it's better to say that there is every center in every zine. A city may aspire to be a metropole. Its zine is as slim as the zine about the rural village among the paddy hills. We've tried to build worlds without the shorthand of statistics, of taxonomy, of price lists in GP. Roll a six-sided die. Number one, you see farmers replanting a field. What do their work songs say? Number two, you meet a hat stylist. How many ways can you adorn your head? Number three, you work with a boatwright. What kind of prows does she carve? Number four, you enter the emigrant reporter. How do these people describe their homeland? Number five, you walk in a forest. What words must you avoid speaking aloud? Number six, you wait for your audience with a god. Who waits here with you? I think there's no better format to explore these things. Tabletop RPGs. They are about building and breathing life to worlds. And I'd say their potential in this regard is unparalleled. Think about it. What is a role-playing game but a seed of imagination designers give to players and game masters? So those players and those game masters can grow imaginations of their own to care for and grow together and take ownership of at their own tables. These zines, like all my work, when I can finally get over the wine, which is still there, are not meant to represent any place, any people. If you pick them up hoping for an explication of, and therefore a command of, things like Southeast Asian history or Malaysian politics or so on, you will be disappointed. These zines weren't written to speak to you. These zines are for us, Mun Kao and I, centering ourselves, tending to our own garden, tending to the needs of ourselves, our land. The zines are seed bombs we are throwing against the aforementioned Malay warrior monoculture. The monoculture in our minds. Seed bombs to rehabilitate our own imaginations. One day, maybe, these seeds will grow into trees tall and thick enough to screen us from the wine. Still, here, you can have a seed bomb. The nice thing about a seed is, with your care, it could sprout in your own garden if you want, and let it flower in your mind. It's up to you. In 2016, Royal Dutch Shell sold its Port Dickson operations to the Shandong Headrun Petrochemical Group, a Chinese conglomerate. So ever since, the Shell Refining Company has been the Hengrun Refining Company. They expanded the plant. The double gas flare is now a triple gas flare. Though our masters change often, the drive of imperialist capital stays. The wine in my head remains. Every evening, though, as the sun sets, the birds of Port Dickson return to roost. They don't live in trees, they live in the Hengrun Refining Company. They nest amid the machinery. They nest there because it is warm and it is safe. Their predators, like snakes, cannot traverse the refinery's industrial screen. Oddly, the wine doesn't seem to bother them all that much. Maybe they shout over it. They are 20,000 strong. The racket they make is louder than anything. The birds cackle and they sleep and they shit. They present an actual problem to refinery operations. Their shit is a slipping hazard for workers. I was told that the plant consulted ornithologists for ways to deal with the problem. The ornithologists told Hengrun, as long as your refinery is here, the birds will not be going anywhere. If you will allow me one last turn of this already tumbling, turbining metaphor. Dear friends, the things I've heard yarned about here at Freeplay, about art and activism, about indigeneity and resistance, about poetics and play, thank you for having me. We are birds squawking together, roosting in ravaged homes, and yet our homes nonetheless, sharing space. Thank you for sharing your space with me, and thank you for letting me share my space with you. May we continue to shit on the powers that poison us and sing against the wine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zedeck, for the very powerful keynote. It was very personal and meaningful, and yeah, it was quite moving. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to create such a well thought out talk.
My pleasure. Yeah, I was worried that it was too personal, but
yeah,
that's the point, I guess.
Yeah. If the audience has any questions for Zedeck, please ask away. My first question for you is when did you first discover the inner need or desire to write these things or to express yourself in this way?
Like, so when I was young, like I started being a writer, like being a journalist, you know, and in the 20s, because I had moved away, actually, I moved away to my own local metropole, which was Kuala Lumpur. There was this desire to be, to be a writer, to speak important things, to write the, as cliche as it is, to write the great Malaysian novel, to be representative. Because like I said in the keynote, I think everybody in this region, at least everybody that I know, is born with this need to speak to a wider place. And I think I only became aware of this, became conscious of it when I moved back, like 10 years ago, moved back to my hometown, Port Dickson. And like when you move back wanting to write fiction, you suddenly have nothing to say. And you start relating. This happened both to me and to my partner, Sharon. It was a return. It was a return to relating to specific land. I think the sort of ideas that indigenous communities and indigenous peoples hold and have, like that kind of discourse, or that kind of framework, is like, so our moving back was kind of like an approach towards that. Just realizing that there isn't just us and our need to speak nationally, or our aspirations to be important or to matter. This house that we live in now, that you see around me, is the house I was born in. It's got a garden that gets overgrown every week. It's got fruit trees, so we get lots of monitor lizards, we get lots of monkeys, we get macaques and langurs, we get civet cats, and all these things. We never notice these things in the city because that's not what the city notices. Also, conversely, relating more to the land means that we notice the wine, we notice the refinery more. Because it's, yeah. So if I were to pinpoint, sorry, this was such a long way to answer the question. If I were to pinpoint a time where I wanted to write the things that were truly living, make the things that were truly living, this was the time. Yeah. So that's where the zines come from. That's where the book comes from. That's where even something like POLITIKO was half.
Yeah. Do you feel a sense of community within your practice where you can share some of these challenges or concerns or troubles or fears with Like, does that community exist for you, and where is it?
Oh boy. I think one of the reasons why I wanted to write, wanted to say these things during the keynote was that because I don't think it's hard. It's so hard because, like, for example, like the RPG, the indie tabletop RPG scene is full of Southeast Asians doing really interesting stuff. There's so many creators from the Philippines, for example, who are just doing stellar work. And they also talk about, like, you see, right, and Twitter is a great place to sort of like see the outbursts of emotion about these kinds of things, where like the agony of always having to speak outwardly, but even inwardly, I think, because there is also agony there too, because this thing is not really very well examined. The idea that everybody working in our local communities has this thing where we're trying to, like, our core audience is Anglo-American, or even just English language speaking. So it always requires a great deal of examining the self and questioning the self, which is painful, and which means that you can't be you can't hold the self-righteous thing of like, hey, we were colonized, give us a place at the table, and sort of like think about what will it mean for us to have our own table, and deal with the fact that we are perpetuating this kind of power dynamics here in this region. So again, it's a roundabout way of saying that it's so hard, and I think it's a place to start, sort of talking to each other. But again, it's been hard. It's hard because there are language barriers. It's hard because even in Southeast Asian region, there is more. We have more relationship with our Commonwealth masters, or the Philippines has a more greater relationship with the US than with Malaysia. It takes longer for a package that I send from here to reach Manila than it takes for a package I send here to reach the UK. Yeah. That tells you everything.
I don't know if we have any other questions. Maybe we can do one last call on the chat. If you have any questions for Zedeck, please ask away. We have lots of thank yous coming through, saying it was a very beautiful talk, very powerful talk, people tearing up, and people, yeah, thanking you for your considerate and luminous words. Yeah, and it's just been an absolute honor to hear from you in real time.
Very welcome. If there are no questions, I would like to say something that I didn't manage to include in the keynote. Like, me and Sharon have been reading lots of Australian Indigenous writing recently. So she's been reading the Black Swan. Sorry, the Swan book. Alexis Wright, and I've been reading Tyson Yunkaporta. So in Yunkaporta's Sand Talk, there was this passage which, when I read it, it was like, wow. It struck me, like, he talks about the idea of turnaround, which he describes as a Aboriginal English term that was used to describe the thing that settlers then started calling the dream, or dream time. And this is a very, I mean, I don't know, like, I think about language a lot, and the idea of Aboriginal English, about using words like mob and country and turnaround, because like in standard Western English, turnaround means something different. It means a business thing, whatever. So using that language and truly inhabiting it was something that I found so. That's what I want to do as a writer in English, to no longer, for example, say, use the word Raja, or the Raja is the Southeast Asian word for king. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be a subset of the language. I want to possess the language complete for myself. So I want to use king and let the word king mean Raja, and then Europeans will have to find a different way of understanding king. They will have to find their own specific word to understand what king means. So I just wanted to say that. I just thought that was so inspiring, or so, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like each of us have our own reflecting and questioning to do, and a lot of the time these very intricate details are invisible to us and often go unquestioned, whether it's our privilege or the fact that often, here in Australia we're standing on stolen land, and really interrogating what that means, and beyond that, just thinking about where, for us in Australia, like thinking about where we're situated and who our nearest neighbors are, and how we relate to them. And so it's been very important for me over the past few years to bring on board people from Malaysia, people from Singapore and the Philippines and Indonesia, so that they can occupy the space and tell their stories. And I think that's extremely important. And which is one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on board as Keynote as well this year. Yeah, well, maybe we can wrap things up here. I wanted to say thank you so much again. It's been an absolute honor to hear from you, and thank you for sharing your words and your experiences and wisdom with us, and for trusting Freeplay, and speaking from a place of vulnerability. Yeah, thank you again.
It was my honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Okay, well, from here we will do a bit of housekeeping. We're now formally entering the closing ceremony territory. If you'd like to keep in touch with Zedeck, you can definitely follow him on Twitter, and definitely check out his 1,000 Islands project. I've shared those now in the live chat. Yeah, so we're at the very end of the festival. It's been an amazing journey, a very tiring one for us behind the scenes, I think. There's a few things that I wanted to announce and mention. Firstly, our awards finalists are now public. They have been announced, and you can find them on the Freeplay Awards page. Congratulations to all of the nominees. We've got a very exciting list of games that have come up. One thing that I really love about the Freeplay Awards each year is that it uncovers all of these games and game makers that I've actually never heard of, which is fantastic, and it really shows that Freeplay and the Freeplay judges are doing great work. Our award ceremony will not be taking place during the festival. Usually it would happen after the closing keynote. Unfortunately, due to lockdown and various other reasons, we've had to postpone the award ceremony, and the award ceremony will now take place on the 27th of this month. Yeah, and I'd love to invite you to attend the award ceremony on the 27th. It'll be great. We have Jonathan Ruok on board as MC again, which is very exciting. Both Jonathan and Jeannie have been working extremely hard behind the scenes, getting everything ready to go. So do look out for that. Other than that, I think I have a few thank yous. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our major partners, the Australia Council for the Arts and Creative Victoria. They've been amazing help and support in making Freeplay possible this year. So Freeplay's been assisted by the Australian government through the Australia Council for the Arts, its arts funding and advisory body, as well as supported by the Victorian government through Creative Victoria. The award ceremony will take place in the capital, which is an RMIT venue. I'd also like to thank RMIT for their support and for granting us permission to reproduce and use the capital in its digital form. I want to thank our amazing sponsors, our champions of Freeplay, for their generous support. House, 2 Point Interactive, Worm Club, and League of Geeks. Your support truly makes a difference, and I just wanted to say thank you. I want to say a major, a huge shout out and a big thank you to the whole Freeplay team, who've just gone above and beyond this year to deliver the festival that you've all experienced. We've had to do a lot of last minute pivoting because of the sudden lockdown in Victoria. We had, I think, 1 or 2 weeks notice to transition everything online. Yeah, the team has worked extremely hard. And so I just want to say thank you to them. I want to thank Ben for handling all the behind the scenes work and for being with me through all the calls across these 5 days and just making sure the whole stream is working smoothly. I want to thank Jeannie for coming on board as producer again and for just being amazing handling the awards ceremony, some of the stuff with the zone and VoiceWorks. Jeannie's just been huge help and very grateful to have them on board. I want to thank POLITIKO for handling all the social media and the comms, for tweeting all the announcements about the talks. And it's always a pleasure to have POLITIKO on board. I want to thank Goldie for handling all the visual art. She's done an amazing job bringing the theme to life this year with the art, and for working on some of the awards art as well, which is going to be great. I want to thank Terry as well, our sponsorships manager, for all the hard work that he's done, and for bringing all our sponsors on board. Very grateful to have Terry on board. I want to thank Tiara for all the help with the volunteers. Even though we didn't quite have volunteers helping out in person this year for the festival, I'm sure all the volunteers will come come on board for our postponed in-person events. A big thank you to Jason, our chair of the Freeplay Awards, for all his hard work, and for helping, you know, chair the jury of judges for the awards, and for just being on top of the awards. A big thank you to Jason. I want to thank Andy again for all his help with everything on the team, all the night market coordinating. Even though we didn't quite get to have the night market during the festival, keep your eyes out for future announcements regarding that. And a big shout out to Jonathan as well, our awards MC, for helping prepare the Freeplay Awards. A big thank you to Rory Sampson, who handled all the, who was the artist for this year's visual branding. Both Goldie and Rory did a fantastic job with the artwork this year. I want to say a huge thank you to Jay and Cecile for handling everything zone related. The zone is truly, like, it's one of the most special things, if not the specialist thing of Freeplay, both this year and last year, and it really brings the Freeplay festival and the community alive. You know, they've been working extremely hard, helping make the zone happen. They've been adjusting the zone throughout the festival for all the cool little mini events that we've had. So yeah, a big thank you to Jay and Cecile for all of that. Thank you to our program partners, VoiceWorks, Games Gig, and Sinister Creative. Sinister Creative have postponed their event, and again, keep your eye out for their upcoming announcements. A massive shout out to all our judges for going above and beyond with the amount of work that's been involved with this year's awards judging. We keep getting more and more awards submitted each year, and this year was no different. Very excited with the finalist list, and I can't wait to hear who the winners are. A big thank you to the Freeplay board for all their support. Thank you to our keynotes this year, Screenkey and Zedeck, and all our speakers. Like, Freeplay would not be Freeplay without its community and without the speakers who contribute to it. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who purchased festival and speaker support passes, and to everyone who purchased t-shirts as well. T-shirts are still on sale, and they'll be on sale until midnight tonight. And so if you haven't bought a t-shirt and want to, go ahead and do that before they're gone forever. I want to thank my cat Aslan for being the most wonderful furry companion. It was great to see Aslan make an appearance in the zone. Go and pet him if you haven't already. And finally, I want to thank my partner Helen for being the biggest support. I don't know if I could have gotten through the last few weeks or few months without her help. So thank you so much. Yeah, so that's all the thank yous that I have. If I've missed anyone, I apologize, but I just wanted to say thank you to the whole community for feeling like they belong, and for embracing Freeplay and all it stands for. And just want to thank them for continuing to be critical of the art form, to continuing to experiment. That's ultimately what, you know, Freeplay is about, is to embrace the fringes, to be critical of the status quo, and to lend our voice, no matter how soft or small it may be, because ultimately with all our voices combined, I think Freeplay makes for a pretty loud roar. Yeah, I don't know if I have much else to add other than just saying thank you again, and that I look forward to seeing you all again on the 27th of June for our award ceremony. And yeah, I'm looking forward to resting because I'm pretty exhausted. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you had a lovely time, and we'll see you at the next event. Thank you. Thank you so much.